Hi, this is author-philosopher Ronald E. Springer of ethicsreloaded.com. With over 20,000 hours in philosophy and psychology, I've developed a world's first, a fully integrated moral code based on nature itself. I call it moral armor. The purpose of my work is to protect the best in all of us, to wipe out the plethora of moral confusion in the world, and get us all moving in one common, life-furthering direction. Mankind is in a dark place at present. Our very civilization is in a precarious balance. To save the world, we must build a moral bridge between the good of all races and faiths, in order to fight the evils aligning against us. Impossible? I know. But someone has to try. I discovered what philosophers down through the centuries have called a mystery. I found that there's a pattern to cognition. I define it in 4 simple steps which follow exactly the pattern necessary to sustain biological life. With the awareness that you are completing this living pattern correctly, you can know that your every action is moral and right. I then extrapolated this pattern throughout the individual, social, artistic, and institutional realms to offer a fully integrated view of how a moral person conducts himself or herself in life. Most of you will recognize yourselves in this section and will be free to claim and enjoy the credit you deserve for the choices you have made. That's the first half of the program. For the second half, I invert the pattern of cognition to show how evil operates across the full range of human action as well. If you see elements of yourself here as well, we all have work to do. That's all right. We will correct these attributes with a better understanding in time. This set of 12 podcasts, titled A Bridge Between Us All, touches on the highlights of my first book, Moral Armor. For those who would like to expand on these topics, a more in-depth program is in the works. More information, including books, CD sets, and my blog, can be found at ethicsreloaded.com. You can also follow me on Twitter and Facebook. A Bridge Between Us All is sponsored by BachelorMonkey.com, an ebook that shows how you can achieve a 4-year bachelor's degree in as little as a year. If you think a college diploma takes too long or costs too much, think again. With Bachelor Monkey to guide you, you can finish school fast and cheap, stabilize your income, and safeguard your children's futures. Visit BachelorMonkey.com for details. And now, A Bridge Between Us All. Hi, this is author-philosopher Ronald E. Springer. Welcome to the most concise exploration available of nature's moral armor. Most adults consider our moral decline to be the single most important issue in America today, and they're right. History has shown that 3 key elements have accompanied the fall of every major empire. Number 1, the disintegration of family. Number 2, rampant sexual immoralities. And number 3, public distrust of government. We're at an all-time low for all 3 categories in America, and we've got to savor. The need for solutions is desperate, but most of us feel helpless. We'd be fine if we had a clear track to run on that made sense, but we don't, and few have any idea what to do about it. There's no question that this is a moral crisis. So what should we follow? Should we all become Christians? If so, then which one of the 34,000 different Christian sects, all based on disagreements, should we join? That's not a good example of tolerance. We need internal peace, self-responsibility, and unity. Should we convert to Islam? They preach killing every outsider, including anyone willing to coexist peacefully with outsiders. What on earth should we follow? From birth, we've all stumbled into a moral war. Every action considered moral in one code is considered immoral in the next. Because of it, mankind's problems are coming to a head. It's clear that we need to be doing something different. While most of us are not the problem in society, we aren't going to succeed in pushing these old philosophies on others. The walls are already up, and they've been reinforced for centuries, millenniums even. We need to do what JFK said, find our most basic common link. We need to identify what we all have in common, and build from there. I'm here to offer just such a thing, a morality that takes us from the ground up and rebuilds our whole concept of good and evil according to a standard we can all agree on. Introducing Nature's Solution, an organic moral code. Nothing is more confusing than morality. Since I could think for myself, I wanted to do right, but I was raised in a violent religious environment. I couldn't believe their philosophy let them get away with the things they did, and I grew up in a fog because I took their lessons literally. I didn't want to be like them, fake for outward appearances and abusive in private. I eventually understood that they were twisting morality to cover their actions, but it took years to discover it. They had done their job well. They had me believing no clarity was possible. Well, we as mankind deserve a fully coherent code of ethics, one that rewards us for dwelling in harmony with the flow of life. Few believe one could ever exist, but I'm here to tell you that there is a crystal clear, non-contradictory structure for morality, and it is based on the nature of man. I've developed an organic moral code that will show you how to move through life with complete moral certainty. It will show you how to secure better relationships, safeguard your family, reform our country's moral drift, and send evil packing. Through it, you'll gain an iron grip on good and evil, putting you in complete moral control of your life, and for once we can enjoy the deepest, cleanest spiritual freedom ever brought to mankind. You'll gain a properly integrated worldview faster than ever before and take the driver's seat when applying morality to everyday life. Our moral motive. Most of us began our search for moral clarity because we wanted to do right, and we're committed to upholding proper morals wherever we've learned them, as a dedication to goodness, to being the best person we can be. What we sought from the beginning was a moral structure, a format for living acknowledged by all as correct, that would allow us to feel good about our actions, so we could walk through this world with certainty. With all the innocence of a child, that's exactly what I want and have pursued since it was missed in my youth. How would you feel if all of morality flowed with life and brought us together rather than defying it and driving us apart? Morality is so segmented, we don't realize the viewpoint we've been taught might be downright geographical. We wanted to be moral, and a church was right there on the corner. We come to believe our goodness depends on accepting our group's beliefs, but we find that everyone outside has been taught something else. We become dependent on the group's approval, when we should have been taught moral independence. The result is that once we're on our own, morality becomes a subject that we're told not to talk about. Is there any wonder why? They've made morality dysfunctional, and it shouldn't be. Whoever they are, their viewpoint is only as good as their personal intelligence. You don't need their approval. You can break away from their limitations and be perfectly moral. Most of us picture the ideal life as living in harmony with the flow of nature itself, where you'd tap into its grace and be at one with the universe. And I agree. But that's not the only view. Let's talk about our perfect world. What is it? Most often we'd hear heaven on earth, where no one has to work, food drops into our mouths for the price of opening it, and rivers flow with milk and honey. The problem is, as this defies nature and we wouldn't be earning the products that can only be created by others, we'd have to seize them. Whenever a civilization has attempted to realize such a heaven on earth, a slave society has emerged. Here's my version of a perfect world. I wake up to sunshine and the birds are singing. I suds about in the tub and get squeaky clean. I select some dapper threads and spend some quality time checking myself out in the mirror. I never get sick of it. Then I grab my briefcase, kiss the wife and 2.5 kids, and head out to the garage. Awaiting me is my dream car, a Ferrari or something, and it was no lottery prize. I earned it. It's mine. I lay 2 patches 20 feet long and it's off to my dream job. I'm not rude to people in traffic. Flow is everything, so I anticipate their actions and help them get in the flow or out of it if I can. Driving is an adventure. There are no horns blaring because most of us are enjoying ourselves out there, and we're patient when we should be. As far as I'm concerned, every old lady is my grandmother. The police aren't out there slowing things down, ticketing people for speeding. Again, flow is everything. They ticket only those whose conduct is disruptive. I'm heading to a place where I want to be. I work with people I genuinely like and look forward to seeing. We've come together to make a product that benefits others and allows us to live the kind of lives we want to live. There is certainly pressure to perform in our work, but it's productive tension that makes us feel good about ourselves and makes others value us even more because we handle it so well. They pay me well. They know they have to. We work a full day, but know when to call it quits. Many of us have a romantic evening ahead. The one I chose to spend my life with is on my mind. She's my greatest achievement, and I reflect on that accomplishment often because attaining all precious goals are alike in mind. I landed her, and when the going gets tough, I think of her, and it's a reconfirmation that I can win my deepest values. If I keep striving and never give up, I can generate all the bounty and happiness I need. I saw her for the first time and my stomach dropped. I knew I deserved her, but she didn't know it yet. Whatever I said, it worked, and I was able to build the relationship over time. Now she's my greatest fan, and I'm hers. We stand behind each other 100% to be as fulfilled as possible. She wants me to be the man, and knows that I have to earn it. I want her to feel appreciated for her feminine power and for what it does to me. Both of us need to feel desirable and deeply desired. That's why we stay trim and active and spend our lives on growing. She's beautiful, and it's not just what nature gave her, it's how she feels about living. The look of exhilaration and adventure is always a part of her expression. As a result, the facial muscles associated to beauty have gotten a real workout over the course of her life. We both feel excited about the new discoveries awaiting us around all of life's corners, so we remain bright and alive. The values we strive for create a challenge to remain worthy of each other. Other suitors take notice, and this constantly emits romantic appeal, so the fire between us has never died. Our kids look at us with embarrassment and envy. They see what they want for their own futures. They know that we have something special between us that's private and exciting. We're in love, and it's written all over us. They dream of the enchantment of being endeared to another, which will one day add a whole new dimension to their lives, and they can't wait to grow up and become worthy of it. Our kids have grown, watching us live productive lives. They see us deal with insincere people sternly, to protect our clean, honorable lifestyle and keep the evils out. They see us striving towards goals and fostering others to do the same. They see our setbacks, our determination, and our triumphs. They see how we spend our leisure time, whether it's skiing in the Alps or sailing down the coast, but it's all based in some way on our own accomplishments. They learn the pattern of success and fulfillment by example. They know what it takes and absorb our disciplines so they can focus on what they want in life and achieve it. There are few teen struggles in the family because there's nothing to rebel against. We as parents understand the growth phases. We know they need to become independent. We didn't shelter them from personal responsibilities, leaving them unprepared for the world. We steadily increased their self-responsibility so they could leave the nest soaring. So life is running smoothly. Relationships are sound. I'm doing what I enjoy. I go to sleep excited about tomorrow. Now in my life, some of this is fantasy, some of it is real. I get up and suds about every day. I lay those 20-foot patches. I love the work I do. I don't have the home life I want yet. It's just me and my puppet home, but it's a happy home, and the picture will be completed someday. I don't need a mansion or to control the world to lead what I feel is a near-perfect existence. All I need is freedom, and the rest is up to me. Someone once said, quote, "If you're hard on yourself, life will be easy on you. But if you're easy on yourself, life will be very hard on you." Close quote. We all have our own dreams. Some of you want to travel or have some horses or a sailboat. You can tailor your life to be just what you want, the ideal spouse, the ideal job, and morally, that's exactly what you should do. What's surprising is that this isn't just my opinion. It's a moral necessity. Some would say that I'm just a big kid, but the truth of the matter is that mine is a carefully devised lifestyle, morally designed with fulfillment in mind. I reach the other side of youth intact, and I'll tell you how. But first, tell me, can you appreciate the ideal life that I described, or would you prefer the other one, the aimless, mindless life of freebies? Good, because in reality that lifestyle is actually a death style. It requires victims, the first being your own spirit. Mine does not. This, by the way, is what makes America great, that the most ideal lifestyle I could imagine and work to realize is not only possible, but with a bit of discipline is practically inevitable. And this is true for you too. People are much more moral than they are led to believe. The fact is, most human actions directly serve and satisfy the correct morality for man. To the extent that a man thinks and lives independently, bringing no harm or loss to himself or others, he is moral. Whether we work as a fisherman, a foreman, or an executive, we aren't thinking of destroying the world or of cheating or harming anyone. We're thinking about the visa bill that was due yesterday, or the overtime that we need in order to meet expenses that we didn't budget for. Most of us are keeping our families afloat and trying to make life comfortable in the process, and that's it. We're not evil. Often, life is too perplexing for us to consider having any motives at all, beyond earning a decent living and being able to enjoy it. For a life of dedication, hard work, and trustworthiness, we deserve morality's stamp of approval. What's difficult for me to accept is how hard it was for me to reach those conclusions. Looking back, I'm astonished at how much was in place to bar me from discovering it, and I mean from morality itself. Threats of damnation for questioning their interpretations, personal attacks, even physical attacks. It was insane. I had to step away from our accepted viewpoints at great risk to myself to come up with another code, a simpler, natural code, and that's why I've been sought out by radio stations, philosophers, and television people. That's why I'm here. Let's take a break and talk about when I literally became a starving artist. I lost my job in late 2008 along with a lot of other Americans, and over the next several years was driven into poverty and near starvation by the economic collapse. Occasionally I'd meet with some of my degreed friends who would kindly treat me to a free lunch. They weren't starving. Their lives hadn't been disrupted at all. I decided that getting a degree, even at the cost of 4 years of my life, was the surest way to recover. But I had put it off for over 20 years. It still sounded like agony, so I began searching for a way to speed things up. With a background in program management and extensive study of the College Course Bulletin, I realized I could finish the degree much faster than was customary. The school dictated the sequence of activities, but not the pace at which those activities must be accomplished. I found a number of degree-accelerating methods which, when put together, turbocharged the process of getting a degree. The result was that instead of 4 years or even 3, I finished my bachelor's degree in an unbelievable 1 year and 3 months. I was amazed. Only 1 year after going back to school, I graduated, and then I went on to finish a master's degree as well. I shared my secrets with a number of other students, and they ran with it. Soon they were thrilled to be getting the same results. This proved to me that anyone could do it. Even better was the savings. A 4-year degree at Central Michigan costs about $40,000 if I did it their way. My way cost $11,000. Once I had that diploma, I found a much better job and my income did more than skyrocket. It stabilized, and that was such a huge relief, it made the college effort well worth it. Even in a bad economy, unemployment for degreed people ranges between 2 to 4%, whereas the non-degreed suffer unemployment rates of 15 to 25% or more. If you want a better life, invest in yourself and get Bachelor Monkey today. Visit bachelormonkey.com for details. If you're degreed already, make it a gift and help someone you love turn their life around. Now, back to our program. Let's go back and see how this all started. My story. From my earliest memory, the feeling I can remember most is enchantment. Every new sound, every new day was an adventure. I couldn't comprehend how anyone could be unhappy or could want to hurt anyone else. I was always very sensitive to moral actions. Immoral actions wounded me deeply. Aggression, denial, carelessness, I knew these things to be wrong practically from the first time I opened my eyes. When I witnessed such things, it wasn't irritation or fear that I felt heartbreak. I felt mortal damage. The Japanese say a samurai never makes a promise because everything that comes out of his mouth is as good as a promise. Well, that's how I felt about our actions in life. Our actions tell the world exactly what we are, and I couldn't understand why anybody would want to be anything but moral. And moral to me meant brave, open, friendly, hard-working, honest, and dependable. I thought, I want to be as moral as I can be, but the ones giving me moral guidance were leaning in to intimidate me, shaking fists in my face, hostile because I didn't just believe what they said. Ask the wrong question, and I'd wake up on the floor. They weren't like I imagined Jesus or Moses to be. Suddenly, morality got complicated. It wasn't about honor or self-responsibility, but about letting others escape self-responsibility. I was told to forgive anything, but I couldn't forgive people who did evil things intentionally. I knew something was drastically wrong, and I didn't want to be like them. They claimed God would forgive them anything, and proceeded to move through the world like the Romans did, not like Jesus. So who was their true idol? If moral judgment was to be interpreted and applied by men, then their interpretation was wrong, and to this day I can't remember any of their moral lessons. I only remember the violence. Learning American history in school, I found honor and sound judgment in Benjamin Franklin, Abraham Lincoln, or even in my own view of Jesus, seeking the kind of calm, friendly people I would never fear to encounter. Someone I could ask anything of, someone I didn't have to run from. These are the men I chose to pattern my life after, but I was alone in this. As time went on, I'd watch those less aware in my generation bumbling down the same path of my elders, and I'd laugh. I'm not sure just when I began to consider it dangerous. With life experience, I saw the insanity extrapolated deeply into business and world affairs. It marred everything in its path. I couldn't escape its influence and still couldn't believe that anyone took it seriously. I was eager to share my road of achievement with others, but in relationships as well as in business, I kept suffering painful betrayals. Instead of the elegant atmosphere I expected, business was like an even more profane and immature high school. My most profitable ideas were scoffed at and then stolen. Competence took a backseat to age, seniority, or cliques. With friends and in relationships, I was abandoned for being too successful, or I was used. They ignored everything I needed acknowledgement for. When I tried to share something insightful, the response I'd hear was, "But are you eating enough?" There was a whole level of my life that I needed to share, and no one to listen, no one to understand. I felt like a freak because I was unable to erase this feeling, the feeling that life is a quest of the most crucial importance, allowing no time or consideration for the details. But my reward from people was a blank stare, and something like, "Have you called your grandmother?" In relationships, I would have a similar emotional response to what I felt about my work, that our bond was something to be knelt before, that we were to grow together, but the feeling would be sunk when she'd run away from her goals and from me. Fear drove everyone to wear masks, and it began to ruin my enjoyment of life. Time was being lost, and it just wasn't funny anymore. As my wealth and ability grew, so did my distance to others, not by my choice, but by theirs. I could not understand their discontent, and little by little, I lost everyone. Heartbroken, I couldn't see what I was doing wrong. I worked so hard, much harder than they did. Wasn't I good enough? It was incomprehensible to me that they could be responding with hatred towards the things I did well, but they were. The more I tried to help, the more I was rejected. Everything I did to think clearly, live a good life, and be a good person brought me penalties. My head wanted to explode, and I could sense that it was all tied together somehow. There was some great evil behind it all. I loved my lifestyle. Life alone was great, but with people it was so dysfunctional I had to step out. Unable to comprehend their motives, I lived in moral confusion until a chance encounter with someone outside my realm changed the course of my life. She did not resent ability. She understood. She introduced me to Western philosophy. I dove deep into its knowledge, and for once I had the answers I had wandered through life without. I spent years studying the greats, Aristotle, the father of reason, Thomas Paine, the father of America, and the world's greatest philosopher, Miss Ayn Rand. I found a world of people telling me that I wasn't crazy. With the power of reason, I felt morally certain for the first time in my life. What I didn't know was that I was walking into a trap. Around the next corner of life, I met the girl of my dreams, but she had some issues. No problem, I thought. With my perfect grasp of right and wrong, I can show her the way. She was like a Ferrari with a few scratches in it. I thought I had the philosophical tools to fix anything or anyone. It was time to be humbled. I bet my chips and I lost. Loving her was like trying to wash a cat. The worst of all I had experienced in life had assumed a pleasing shape, which embraced my world and then clawed me to death. I thought, if I reasoned through her issues with her, she'd do the right things automatically. Morality has a dynamic. People have a dynamic using it or misusing it. I had no comprehension of the leverage she had on herself to stay the course of self-destruction, or what drove it, and it cost me dearly. I'm the type that has to break things down and understand. I had this great philosophical power, but I was helpless to save this relationship. There was something philosophy didn't teach me, something about the nature of good and evil that was not yet known, something that left me drastically vulnerable. I couldn't change her and only ended up hurting myself. I poured my soul into making it work. Letting her go was a death for me. I now believe it was destiny. We have to steamroll the surface before we can build anything. It was a test. I had to be taken down in one final conflict before I accepted the truth about good and evil. Then I had to take the final steps for Western philosophy and complete the quest, and I had to take that plunge alone. It was a long, dark journey, but when I resurfaced, I found, as in a rite of passage, that a shimmering, glistening, living morality awaited me. The enchantment was back. I finally stepped out of their reach. The rewards were clear and forever mine, but the evil was still there, and the war had just begun. If you like the ideas discussed in this podcast, please visit the Moral Armor blog at ethicsreloaded.com. I'll be there to comment on current events and to interact with those interested in making a difference in the world today. You will find more resources and products to help guide you on your journey to moral clarity at ethicsreloaded.com as well. Like Ethics Reloaded on Facebook and Twitter for notifications of future podcasts, special reports, and events. Help us grow. Help save the world. This is author-philosopher Ronald E. Springer signing off.